Hello and welcome to Gaming Gain. My name is Muzz and welcome to a review of The Batman, which I saw last night. I'm just going to do this off the cuff, so if it's a bit rambly, I do apologise. Spoilers, there is going to be spoilers. I'm going to be talking about as much as I can remember from the movie, always talking about the ending and all that good stuff. So let's get into it. I really enjoyed this film. I really enjoyed the Batman. I thought it was. I'm trying to compare it to. I'm trying not to compare it to the Christopher Nolan ones, but it's hard not to because they're both Batman. But I would place it. My feelings at the minute are I liked it better than Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, and Dark Knight's just such a fantastic piece of cinema. So I'll need to watch it a few more times, I think, before I ever get it to that level. But I think definitely deserves the praise that it has been getting. It is a really, really good movie. Let's go with the kind of plot. That overall, this is 2 years into Bruce Wayne's Batman journey, I guess, where we see him kind of. He's almost broken in a way. It's a very different portrayal to what we've seen in the past, where Bruce Wayne is this savvy, kind of really likes to go out and is comfortable being out. He is a bit of a recluse in this film. He doesn't really go out. That's commented on throughout the movie. His relationship with Alfred as well is quite touchy. They don't seem to get on very well. Alfred's obviously raised Bruce, and Bruce Wayne is like, you're not my father. So a bit touchy at the beginning, but it does thankfully get better as the movie goes on. And basically, the Riddler is starting to kill people to uncover this truth about Gotham that we keep, trying to figure out what it actually is. He's killing like the mayor, that's the first person, and he's leaving clues and riddles for Batman. And from there, it kind of evolves into a bit of a murder mystery, where you've got Batman chasing the Riddler with Catwoman as well being there, Selena Kyle, who we'll get into the relationship between Batman and Catwoman in a bit, but I did enjoy their kind of dynamics and their chemistry. And basically it culminates with actually probably the Batman losing. He gets bested by the Riddler, although the Riddler ends up in jail. His plan, for the most part, succeeds, which I thought was a very good way to differentiate this movie, because it's not often that the superhero loses. You do feel like they've lost, but the way the film ends, it feels like it's a good thing almost that he lost. And so I'll go into more detail as we go on. But basically, Robert Pattinson, shout out to him for I thought a really good performance. I think when I saw it was him, I was like the Twilight guy, and I think a lot of us had that kind of response. But for this Bruce Wayne, who's a bit more broken and as I say, a bit more recluse, I think he really pulls it off. And when he's Batman as well, it's a very grounded version of Batman, like the Christopher Nolan ones were as well, but this is a lot more grounded. Like, the technology's not as fancy, the fight scenes are brutal, and I'll get into them because they were some of my favourite scenes in the movie. But yeah, Robert Pattinson really pulls off Bruce Wayne very well, and this kind of new, because 2 years into it, he's still quite raw, although he's had 2 years. Like, there's moments in it where you can see that he's not altogether in control, and there's a bit of like when Alfred later on in the movie gets hurt, and he's waiting for, I think it's Catwoman or Commissioner Gordon. You can see it, even though he's got the cowl on, and you can see it in his face that he's worried about Alfred. And I thought that was a really, really nice touch. And there's other moments in there, like when he climbs to the top of a tall building, and he actually like is quite scared because of the height, which I was like, okay, I like this, and I like that aspect because it humanizes Batman a wee bit more. It makes you care for him a bit more, and you don't want to see him get hurt. So that's Robert Pattinson. The Riddler is probably where I did like the performance. I'll say that I did like it. Was very, very creepy and very going back to the grounded thing. It was very like if there was a Batman in the real world, this could theoretically happen. Like that's the scary thing. Basically, the Riddler gets a small group of individuals, meets a small group of individuals. What I say, a small group, like 500 people online, who help him. And in the end scene, it could have become a mass shooting, which is quite poignant in today's society. And yeah, the Riddler's performance is very creepy, very, very violent as well. Jim Carrey's performance is completely different to this performance. The one scene that I would say where he kind of lost me a little bit is when Batman and the Riddler are talking. The Riddler's in jail, and yeah, I just didn't buy. The best villains are the ones that you can kind of say, okay, they kind of have a point. And the Riddler did kind of have a point with what he was trying to accomplish. Obviously, going about it all the wrong way by killing people. But the fact that he won is really he didn't win per se, but he got one over on Batman. He assumed Batman would figure out his plan, but he didn't, which was to flood the city basically and get everyone into is it Madison Square Garden? I think it's that, and basically have a mass shooting, which Batman doesn't figure out until the city gets flooded, and then he has to go and stop the mass shooting. Which very good scene. Yeah, all the supporting characters I thought were good as well. You've got Jim Gordon, Selena Kyle as well. Thought she was very, very good in her performance. Falcone as well. I really enjoyed his. He was just seedy. A lot of seedy men in this picture. When they go to the Iceberg Lounge and they find out there's a club within the club where a lot of government police end up, and they are just very seedy men, and it is not. Some of the scenes are very uncomfortable in the club, especially when Selena's by herself. It's just But then you find out that Selena Kyle is Falcone's daughter, and it just all kind of kicks off from there. Going back to one of the things I mentioned about the film that I really enjoyed was the fight scenes. The fight scenes were, I'm going to use this word again, grounded, but in a multi-person fight, like Batman's going to get hit, and he gets hit hard in this, and it shows the wounds, kind of when Robert Pattinson takes his t-shirt off and stuff, like shows you the wounds and what he's had to go through, and like he gets shot, but obviously he's got body armor, so it bounces right off him. I will say he's exposing far too much chin in that cowl. He needs to get like some armor plating around here, because surely the bad guys would figure that out. But the fight scenes were great, and I'm trying not to compare it to Marvel as well, but the Marvel fight scenes, there's just so many bloody cuts. And I'm not saying that this doesn't have cuts, but it holds on shots a lot more. There's a lot longer shots where it's a lot more choreographed fights where you're maybe coming down a multi-level. There's one scene in the Iceberg Lounge where he pushes a guy over the railings, jumps down, the guy gets back up, he takes him down again, and it just really emphasises what Batman's actually having to go through and deal with on a kind of daily basis. And Gotham is portrayed as this city that is just down in the dumps. It's raining all the time, Nirvana's playing, it is just not a nice place to be. And I think the overall picture really captures that, where there's not a lot of hope, which is something we're going to come back to. Not a lot of hope for a lot of people in the city, and Batman thinks he is that, but he might not be, because, and I can't believe I left this out, but the Riddler was inspired by Batman to do what he's doing, to make a change through what Batman is doing. And one of the best like two scenes in the movie when you put them together is when, I think it's the first fight scene where there's these guys at a subway station and they're about to beat up a guy. Batman walks out of the shadows. Shout out to the intro, by the way, that was really good, where Batman's kind of narrating, talking about how the criminals of Gotham always look to the shadows and wonder if he's there, and that kind of scares them off. Fear. So anyway, back to Batman comes out, he beats up the people, and I think someone says, "Who are you?" and he says, "I am vengeance." And then later, much later in the film, in fact, the final kind of fight scene, one of the, I forget what they're called. Well, I know the word, I just can't remember it. But one of the people who basically went to the Riddler's cronies, I guess, says to Batman, "I am vengeance," and this just completely turns what Batman's been doing on his head. And the end of the film, it ends on a good note, where although the city's underwater, it kind of feels like a reset point, where okay, we've had dealing with some shitty times in the past 20 years or whatever. Let's use this as a reset point, and Batman, instead of being fear and vengeance, he's going to be hope. He's going to be the hope of the city, and I think that's going to translate into Bruce as well, because for a long time Bruce, it's commented on in the film that he's not been doing a lot within the city. He's just kind of been hiding out, and so I think that's going to. It was a good way to end the film, because you're sitting there like, holy crap, Batman's just been bested, and then you kind of ends on that note where it's more of hope, of looking to the future rather than looking to the past, which I liked. So I don't really know if I have much more to say on it. I will say there is some obviously potential for sequels. I would love to see a sequel. When the Riddler is in jail at the end, it's alluded to that it's the Joker in the cell next to him, or it could be Two-Face. I'm going to go with the Joker based on the fact that he tells a joke and he has a very manic laugh. There was a little Easter egg in the final scene as well, I think, where Batman's basically getting the shit kicked out of him, and he basically saved by Selina Kyle, who then gets taken to the ground, and Batman has to use this serum out of his suit to basically, essentially adrenaline, but I think it could be, I want to say Venom, for Bane, for what he used to kind of get angry and muscular, because Batman just wails on this guy and has to be like stopped from doing it. So a little Easter egg there, I believe, but I think it was a really good film. Like it's a long film, but I never felt bored, or like even when it was like maybe more about Bruce Wayne and the family stuff, I was like, okay, this is quite interesting, and they kept it to the point. it was very on topic with what, there was no like kind of background politics and all that. It was all very important to the story. So you were like, there was revelation after revelation to do with the Wayne family and the Arkhams, and I thought it was handled all very, very well, and I was really impressed with the whole, the music, the story, the characters. I'm trying to think if there's any negatives other than kind of some of the Riddler parts. I think the Riddler overall was a good villain, but I'm not sure about the performance, especially in that scene. It just kind of lost me a wee bit in that scene. I think they brought it back towards the end when he's essentially saying, I thought you were smarter than you were, Batman, but you're not. But yeah, no, really, really good film. Definitely looking forward to the next one. I want to see Robert Pattinson as Batman again. I want to see what they're going to do. I don't know if, because it seemed like it was a different actor playing the Joker, because I would love to see Joaquin Phoenix, but it seems like that was definitely a standalone movie, and I think it deserves to stay that way. I'm not going to lie. I think it deserves to be its own little thing, and get someone else to play the Joker, just not Jared Leto. Please God, no. So yeah, that is my thoughts on The Batman. What did you think about it? Did you think it was a good film? Am I completely wrong on this? What parts did you like? What parts didn't you like? Let me know in the comments below. With all that said, all it's left to say is any thoughts, comments, general hostile remarks, leave them below. Thank you very much. Bye bye.